remembering, because I know I can just check with him. He'll give me the answer. I'm not wasting any time trying to remember it. So over time, what this kind of research is showing is that our human memory is adapting to new communications technology.
That's so true. In fact, I was reading an article of the day. What it said is that nowadays you go in the classrooms, everybody's to themselves. Everybody gets their own laptop, they're doing it. But back in the olden days, if you were in the laboratory, they had no such distraction. So people were helping each other. Let's do it this way. They were innovating more things. But now everybody's in their side with their knowledge base. They don't want to share that knowledge. If I tell him this, then he'll go into this business. In fact, it is really pathetic in the colleges nowadays. Everybody to themselves. Not like the old times when students used to help each other.
Well, I think it makes us more aware, especially when you think about things like exercising your brain as you get older, doing more memory exercises. If you know that you can look something up, maybe it's a good idea to put aside the laptop or the smartphone and just try and remember. Make a little bit more effort, because that stuff is in there, and unless you actually use your memory, you're probably going to start losing it.
That is so true. Here's another great story. It's from Hong Kong. Folks, 88,000 births take place in Hong Kong. 45% of them are born to the mothers from mainland China. Even though Hong Kong is part of China, but it's a different legal system, they have a different passport, and so on and so forth. So when the Chinese mothers get into Hong Kong, they get a Hong Kong passport, and they certainly avoid all the penalties that are associated with one-child policy. Because if you have the second child in China, they penalize you because those hospitals actually report back. But if you have a child in Hong Kong, there is no report.
Oh, wow.
The Hong Kong mothers are pretty angry because the hospital space is somehow taken by the mothers from the mainland China. So they requested, and of course pretty angry, and the government decided, well, they're going to do a quota system. And they say, if we have capacity and you want to come in, we'll be glad to hold you and make sure you give a safe childbirth. But if we don't have the space, no. But the Chinese mothers from the mainland China, they say, no, we don't care. They just come right in there, and they, in the middle of the street, they say, oh, my water is being broken, I have pains coming and all of that, and they take them to the nearest hospital, and they want to have a C-section.
Oh, wow.
Because C-section, they get it on the day and the time that they want.
They can schedule it.
That's right. And the Hong Kong people are really getting angry about this. But folks, mainland Chinese mothers are not only going to Hong Kong, but they come to the United States. They go to Australia. They go to Canada because they want their children to have great education when they decide at the age of 18. It's not that they leave the kids behind. They take the kids back to mainland China, but when they're 18, they have a choice. They can become a citizen of the country they were born, or they can stay where they are.
Wow, so there's all kinds of loopholes to the Chinese, like one-child rule and all of that kind of thing. It seems like moms are being very savvy about how to get around all of that.
Hey, women are always know how to get around.
Well, on the subject of babies and families, I was very surprised to read that in Israel, you have the world capital of in-vitro fertilization. Yes, IVF treatments are very common in the small country of Israel. In fact, Israel provides free, unlimited IVF procedures for up to 2 take-home babies until a woman is 45 years old. This applies to Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, anybody who lives in Israel. Now, of course, not the Palestinian territories. It doesn't apply to them. But for any woman, whether she's gay, straight, married, unmarried, up until the age of 45, she gets free, unlimited in vitro fertilization treatments.
Wow.
Now, this is kind of unheard of in other parts of the world. It is one of the country's largest public health expenditures. And it actually is not too controversial. Most people are pretty happy with it. You know, the family is such an important institution within Israeli culture, and in general, the fertility rate is really high. It's 2.9 children per family in Israel. Some Israeli Jews actually remain concerned that they need to repopulate after the Holocaust, and it's important to have more children and to have bigger families. But, you know, whereas in the United States, only 1% of births are products of in vitro fertilization, in Israel, 4% of births are the product of in vitro fertilization. And you can have multiple tries. So one of the things that this article is talking about in the New York Times is that in the U.S., they often will implant multiple embryos because the procedure is very expensive. You know, a couple cannot go through it for a long period of time or many times. So they'll plant many embryos, and sometimes that results in multiple births. You know, so you end up hearing these stories of 3 or 4 children being born at a time. Here in Israel, they actually do fewer implanted embryos, so you're likely to have just, you know, 1 or 2 kids at a time instead of having this kind of multiple births going on.
But you know, in America, this technology is now becoming so popular that they will exceed Israel very soon. You know, it's very exciting to say, okay, I want a daughter, but I want to make sure she has none of the diseases that you may carry because of hereditary or your DNA. If it needs to be changed, they can change it in that Petri dish. Seriously, that technology is going to be exhilarating for the women who don't really want to get married. They just want to have children. I mean, this is happening all the time now.
But the issue, Ramesh, is the expense, right? The health ministry in Israel says they spend about $3,450 per treatment, right? In the U.S., the average treatment is $12,400.
And you have to do it yourself. I don't think insurance covers it.
Right, exactly. In most cases, insurance doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
And so families are forced to kind of save up the money and do it on their own. So, you know, it's quite interesting that in this tiny little country, there's so much focus on people having children and encouraging women. I was very interested that regardless of sexual orientation or marital status, they want women to have children.
Folks, you know, Tata Group is making a car called Nano in India, which is really the smallest car as well as the cheapest car. I think it costs less than $2,000. Now, Tata wants to build you homes in India for less than 500 euros. Now, 500 euros will be something like $700, less than 500 pounds. They need a land mass of about 20 square meters. That's what the house is going to be. It'll have a flat roof. It'll be built in 7 days. And it'll be made out of concrete. You know the concrete that you pour in the walls? Mm-hmm. They'll just